culture in which students live and the subtle effects of that kind of an environment on the shaping of their characters and of their capacities for future interactions in the workplace and the civilization. Those are only two of what I think are a fairly long list of examples of the way that genuine governors would look into matters at a fairly deep level, which would be certainly potent for students as well as faculty.
So which type of democracy do you think would be best at a university?
You probably gathered that there are elements of each of those that seem appealing and elements of each that seem limiting. The question is how to form hybrids. It's not how to select a single form, but rather, as in the American hybrid that the so-called founding fathers put together, how to combine a diversity of ways, small states and large, legislative and executive, how much voting power for whom. All those things required negotiation and evolution. Direct election of senators has come about as a result of a constitutional amendment, not as a result of the original formulation. Succession issues. All those things require evolution, and they require picking from among different kinds of ideologies. That's partly what the term American pragmatism means. Selecting things that will work in a given context as opposed to being wedded to a particular existing ideology. And so in that sense, I think we need more participation and deliberation across the board, including from the custodians who know quite a bit about why buildings aren't cleaner. We need the associative and workplace democratic features to institutionalize sharing of authority. We need the representative features because it's not feasible in terms of time or our interest for all of us to go to every damn meeting. And the participation, I think I've said. Just one example in closing from the Faculty Senate question. I believe it says in the handbook that the university budget will be discussed and decided on, words to that effect, by the Finance Committee of the Faculty Senate. That practice hasn't been followed for a long time, and I could have it slightly wrong, but I think not. Had that been there, there would have been a way in which administrations would be forced to negotiate with faculty. No one would have to raise arms about democracy this or that, tyranny this or that, faculty irresponsibility, whatever the various partisans might say. There would be an institutionalized place where the different partisans have to come together and negotiate. We need institutional forms that require that kind of coming together, that kind of give and take, and often that kind of a losing, because not everybody is going to win every time.
Anything other than some words about empowerment, perhaps. But many times are seen as a role model for how to develop an authority to move quickly and unilaterally. So what do you see as the influence on that on other organizations, both governments and universities, for instance, when you have large corporations seemingly to be very successful?
Exactly the same ways of thinking which interfere with the democratic reconciliations that need to occur in families and universities also interfere with corporate governance. Business executives are a lot like seals. Seals can be trained because they like fish. Business executives can be trained because they like money. The question is how to arrange the structure of money offering in such a way as to induce the kind of public regarding performance, which I think most people would want. Suppose hypothetically that business executives will start with the Fortune 500 CEOs. could be hired and fired only by boards of directors, but could be paid only out of public monies. Suppose they were paid when air pollution went down, worker satisfaction went up, etc. Would they find a way to reconcile the profit making with the public service? I should think at least the second or third one would. We haven't got those kinds of aspirations because we have bought into historical ways of thinking and habits about the way that things are organized, as opposed to asking how can hybrid forms of governance be put together which give due regard for efficient use of raw materials, for serving consumers, etc., while at the same time giving due regard for the public facets of what corporations do. That simple question is still on humanity's agenda, or perhaps it's just barely over the horizon.